Hey, Lilia. Lilia, I know Greg was traveling. Is he
Hi,
anticipated to be not traveling right now?
Hi, Kelly. Actually, I just pinged him.
Oh, there he is.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Hey there, Greg.
Hey there.
Let's test your audio some more.
Can you hear me?
You're breaking up. Try again.
I'm trying something else. Hang on a second.
Okay, take your time.
Okay, how is that? Can you hear me now?
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Well, thanks to everyone for your patience. And we have much to go through. So let's go ahead and get started. Kelly, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Here you go. All right. Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday to you, if it is still Wednesday for you. Let me put the link to this page here in the chat window, and this is what I'll speak to, community update number 75. We are in the waning days of our Sprint 30 and are currently planning for Sprint 31, which starts on Monday. I'm not going to read through this list in its entirety. I am going to call out things that are likely to slip into the next sprint. We have started work in consensus to build the foundation, but a lot of that foundational work will move into the next sprint. The validation, the randomness, and the property-based testing will also continue into the next sprint. I will call though that work of the consensus team, the sprint has gone as well as could be expected, so we're not surprised by this slippage. Work on the node team is going as planned. We do have a couple items that will move over, but nothing terribly exciting there. We will see some work in rolling related to the cost accounting bridging roll into the next sprint. Of course, that will also mean that multi-sig rolls into the next sprint. And the bug fixes that are in progress are not likely to be completed by the end of this week, so that work will roll over as well. Although, again, the progress on all of these fronts has been good and as good as could be expected. RSpace team, they've completed a lot of the optimization work that they wanted to do this sprint, and so we are in good shape there. The only thing that would slip really are PRs that are currently in review and still need those final reviews before completing a merge into the code base. So all in all, more or less on track, and our planning for Sprint 31 has been very productive. Testnet is currently live. It's running our node 9.6. We have appreciate the ongoing use of the public testnet and the way that it drives our understanding of how the platform is working and informs us related to bugs to investigate and watching as changes that we put into the code base perform. So many thanks to our testnet users. We do intend to update it to our node 9.7 when we do that release. We plan to do that release sometime next week. We do plan to have a community test tomorrow. That's Thursday at 1400 UTC. Based on the conversation that we had at last week's community test, we've invited Kent to be there to specifically address questions that we had related to consensus as we were observing consensus and RSong working together in the demo that Kayvon provided. I have invited people to put questions in the node testing Discord channel that you would like to be addressed. Many thanks to those of you who have put questions there. And that's kind of where we'll start that conversation tomorrow with Kent. All are welcome. In consensus this week, I just want to really call out that the migration to SecP 256K1 algorithm for public-private key pairs is complete and in the dev branch, which means that it will definitely be in next week's release of 9.7, which means if you are an RNode user, and especially a user of testnet, and you're used to using your current key set, which are ED 25519 keys, you will need to make a change. This is a breaking change. It's not difficult. RNode provides keygen support. You can generate some new keys if you want to play with those, or you can, you know, bring your own, but they will need to be SecP 256K1, starting with the release of 9.7, or if you're currently operating against the dev branch, you've already discovered this. Node, the team is primarily focused on bug investigations that were in the backlog and fixes in this sprint, and that work has gone very well. And they continue to provide metrics support for the consensus team as we continue to investigate issues in the consensus module. The Rolang team, we have a number of PRs. Well, we have two PRs merged and another one in review and another one planned related to the work to bridge cost accounting into the wallet. You know, I've been talking about this for several weeks. This is one of those challenges, and it's largely we're tying together all of the components of the project and working to, you know, to deliver the ability to do cost accounting. So, and what I mean by cost accounting is when you deploy Rolang to the blockchain, you should expect to pay something for it, and you should expect to see, you know, that payment happen as part of your deployment. And that's what we mean by cost accounting. And so we've introduced a wallet, we've introduced the notion of cost accounting, and we've made significant changes to the proof of stake contract that helps support this. And all of these things have to work in concert together. And so the thing that we've noticed most significantly over the past few weeks is that you know, there are things that have to be refactored and improved in order to bridge all of this work together and make it go. So that's why there are so many PRs related to this work. That's why this work has taken a fairly significant amount of time is to do all of this tying together. I do want to call out one of the things that we discussed in stand up today is that as we have introduced cost accounting, we are observing that our current approach to block merging is likely to be insufficient for Mercury. And we need to spend some more time better understanding that insufficiency and then figuring out what to do. So that's certainly the work of the next sprint as well, is to continue that conversation. We are working to make use of the on-chain deployer ID in the Rev Vault. And as Tim did that work, he discovered that he needed to move where that authentication was created to a different tier in the interpreter. So he picked up that work this week, and that's currently blocking the delivery of 3424, but seems to be on track for completion by the end of this sprint, which is good news there. The RSpace team, the PR is in review that will deliver tri-merging. This is where Dom has spent a considerable amount of time to try and optimize and basically redeliver a new algorithm for tri-merging. And his tests indicate that the merging strategy gets us very close to the lower bound for any change to the tri. So he's very excited about that. And then next steps following the merge of this PR are to start working to optimize the cold store. I encourage you to follow this link to the page on Reduce Bloat. If you're very, very interested in how RSpace works, there's a lot of really good information in terms of the tests that he's running and the data that's coming out of that, and how we get to a place where we can say, you know, we're happy with where we are with tri-merging right now. And there's just a lot of good information there. The PR is in review to find an alternate way to understand if a deployment has made it into a block. This is something that is important for users who would like to know where their deploy is, and that work is in review. And then he'll follow up with working towards providing soft checkpointing in RSpace. And then the SRE team, we're really grateful for their work to pivot quickly yesterday and deliver a new DevNet environment. We needed 2 so that we can run some tests in parallel as we continue to investigate issues related to propose and time to propose. So grateful for the team's work there. And then the team continues to collaborate on delivering the hardnet number 1, which will inform then the other hardening networks that we plan to use for hardening Mercury. Right now, they are focused on working on an orchestration tool that will orchestrate the test in that network environment and then help to provide data related to the findings of that test. So that's what we're working on this week. We will be able to share our plan for the next sprint next week. Does anybody have any questions?
I do have a couple of comments. First of all, I really like the hard net nomenclature. That's very good. And so RChain comes out of the school of hard nets. No, that's wonderful. The other thing is, it occurred to me that the last time we were facing what appeared to be either a fairness or a race condition, it turned out to be a exception swallowing. And before we go down the fairness path, I think we ought to do some serious spelunking and see whether or not, in fact, we're actually getting an exception being thrown, and you know, and being swallowed, which is another way to account for the behavior that we're seeing. That's you know, blocking Ed and Kayvon.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'll talk with Kayvon about this. I'm down here in the Bay Area, and Kayvon and I are gonna work today, so we'll take a look.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Any other questions for Kelly?
Cool.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you very much. So a few things. We had our monthly board meeting. Minutes were approved for the last couple of meetings. So those should be out shortly. We have another special meeting coming up in the not in about a week, but the board has effectively approved a sale of rock, 15 million rock, in 3 tranches of 5 million each, tied to the testnet phases. So while we're in testnet phase 1, the rock will be priced out at 10 cents per rock. While we're in phase 2, it will be 12.5 cents, and then finally 15 cents in testnet 3. And those prices were derived from the reception that we had from the folks who bought the rock in the last sale, and their feelings, and the sort of a much wider sampling of folks in various communities, and especially the Chinese community, that you know, people are starting to recognize a more reasonable price for the rock. So that's kind of where we landed. We'll have the full terms available after the special meeting next Tuesday. But people should be aware that that's kind of the shape of it. The minimum price is, unless there's some further discussion, likely to be the minimum purchase is 25K, so half of what it was on the last sale, and it's only for KYC members of the co-op. We can't have people just joining to participate in the sale. So this is really for people who have been KYC'd. So just making people aware of that. Any questions about that topic?
Greg, will there be any restriction on resale of those rock?
Yeah. I mean, it really doesn't matter too terribly much because we're getting so close. But yeah, the expectation is that they're locked, just like with the last sale. The expectation is that they are in fact locked until mainnet.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, moving along. The board is now considering 2 candidates um, for interim board positions. I'll sort of offer those candidates' names after the board has had a chance to sort of see whether in their viewpoint they're viable candidates. So that's underway, and I'm in discussions with someone to take over one of the officer roles that was vacated. So that's also moving along nicely. Again, I won't discuss candidates' names until the discussions are further along, but just want people to know that that's afoot. And there are a number of items of business that I will not cover here, but will cover in the Q&A session on Friday. So let me stop there and check and see if people have any questions about the board level discussions so far.
When will the agenda items for the special meeting be available to members?
There are only 2 agenda items currently. No, sorry. Yeah, 2 agenda items currently, and that is the terms of the approval of the terms of the sale, official approval, because we actually took a vote and it has passed, but the board is expecting a term sheet, and that term sheet will be cut of the same cloth as the last member sale term sheet. So it's not going to be much different with the exception of the things that I just said. And then the discussion of the interim board members.
Yeah, well, it's the interim board members, and then you mentioned items of business. So I was just curious what those items of business were, or
so those are not for the special meeting. The items of business are items that the board covered that I will not cover on this call, but on the closed door session.
Thank you.
Then moving along, it's getting close to the time when anyone who wants to be a board member will need to put their hat in the ring. So start thinking about that. And then we also need the whoever wants to be involved to step up with respect to the voting procedure for the October votes. So we would like to have as much community involvement as is reasonable and sustainable in making sure that we have a successful voting process in this October. So I heartily recommend that people start discussing this now, because we're already in June and we have to have the process rolled out by October. So please be thinking about that. And that is all the updates I can discuss on this call. Any questions, comments, or concerns from folks here?
I would just mention that in the collab we are working on the liquid democracy with Trust Metric. Certainly some of that will be functional. It relies on Discord security. And needs some finishing in terms of handling the signatures properly and stuff. But I guess I'm wondering who we connect with in terms of getting the specific requirements we have for the voting. And I guess Discord voting may not be sufficient. We may have to have the paper ballot process done as well. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that ultimately this is overseen by the governance committee. That seems like the right committee to do that work.
Right.
If there is any work that needs to be done to corralling the governance committee or getting it into shape, that would be the place to start.
Awesome.
Mhm. Thank you for your question. It's a good question. It's actually pretty exciting. You know, we're at our third member vote. So I'm very happy about the progress that we've made there. Okay, unless there are any other questions, burning comments, we'll leave it there, and I'll take my leave so Kayvon and I can jump on some development work.
Bye, everyone.